Hello, I'm Citrus, and you're looking at the high-grade Build Divers Leo NPD. This came out summer 2018 and it retails for 1200 yen right there on the box. This is 200 yen more than the regular high-grade After Colony Leo, which is, of course, the original suit from Gundam Wing. And my big motivation for picking up this kit over that is because for 200 yen more, you get a bunch of extra armor and headpieces for customizing Leo the way you like. I'm also not a huge stickler for canon or anything like that, so I don't mind the weird gray purplish color scheme, which I think is actually pretty unique. Alright, so let's just get this open. And right off the bat, you can see these plates here, along with this one, are all from the original Leo. And these plates here are the special parts that you get for the Leo NPD. First of all, the kit uses nearly almost polycapless construction, as these are the only polycaps that are included. We'll start with the Leo's A plate here, and this is basically all of the exterior armor in the entire kit. And these bits are for the legs, and you can see what appear to be C-clip type of connections for those joints. Looking at the parts more closely, you can also see that Bandai decided to stay close to the animation model, so not much extra detail is inscribed on the parts. And here are all the joint parts that go underneath. Nothing too remarkable here, except this kit only comes with 2 hands, open fists, and nothing else. And this last bit has the gun for the Leo. This looks like shield parts, some more gun parts, feet, and the sides of the head. Even the clear part for the face visor thing is still included, which is very nice. Interesting to note that the thrusters here have basically the same level of detail in them as the ones on the real grade do. And here's the first tree of the new NPD parts. So right here you can see there are 4 different head designs. For this piece you can see that the visor will need to be painted in, whereas on the other ones there are holes for clear visor pieces to go in. The visor parts are only in clear, which means any color that you like needs to be painted in. Now that's good and bad, because if you like customizing you can get them the exact shade that you want, but if you are lazy, the only way to give them color is to use the included stickers, which kind of defeats the purpose. Now if you look at the seal sheet here, there is no sticker cut out for this face, so you'll have to paint this no matter what. This is the last NPD plate, and it's fairly unremarkable, just has the NPD backpack. But what's really important is that this also includes additional chest joints for you to put into the NPD chest here. And what this means is that Bandai intended for you to be able to build both chest designs at the same time without having to disassemble it and swap shared parts over. Also included are a pair of SB6 beam sabers, which by modern standards are quite short. And of course we have the instruction manual. On the back you can see a reference to the original Leo right there, and some poses showing off the different variations of armor you can equip. The instructions crosses out the original parts for the Leo, but of course you can always keep them and put them together. You can also see some variation between the kit's plastic and the animation colors, which are much more subdued. I originally planned to build this kit back in July, right after I finished the real grade Tall Geese, but I couldn't find it in any of my local shops. After a few months of searching, I gave up and just bought one online. The Leo NPD seems to be a very popular kit, at least in my area, because they disappear almost immediately whenever they're restocked. I just always seem to miss them. Getting into the build, some of the gate placements are a bit frustrating. For instance, there's a nub placed on each of the forearm and calf pieces right where the part starts curving inwards. It's a challenge to clean them up properly. None of the parts are undergated, which means any future gloss injection or special coating variations will be a bit ugly. On the bright side, seam lines are pretty well managed, except on the forearms where they're pretty obvious. Bandai chose to use C-clips to make the seam lines match up on the molded panel lines in the legs, and that's very clever, but I'm not a fan of this decision. There's plenty of reinforcement from the back piece of the knee, so the clips are unlikely to break, but the joints themselves are fairly loose. Even if you applied some nail polish or something to give the connection more bite, they'll wear down pretty quickly because the joint plastic is very soft. Speaking of loose, I'm also not a fan of how the 6 ball polycaps were used throughout the kit. The only place where they make sense is in the waist, but the socket in the lower waist section is molded slightly too large, so the rest of the chest falls off very easily. The other 4, which go into the thighs and ankles, I just don't understand. I don't know why Bandai chose not to stabilize the polycaps in the thighs, because as they are now, the legs just flop around under the hip joints. Getting the legs into the right position for a pose and keeping them in place while positioning the rest of the kit is a pain. The ankle joints are basically hopeless. The sockets are loose, there is almost no movement to either side, and the ankle guards can't move much before popping off. Trying to pose the completed model without a stand is genuinely an exercise in frustration. If you're interested in the web-exclusive Leo space type and flight pack variations, keep in mind that both designs feature big, bulky backpacks, which no doubt will make just standing up the kit a struggle. To be clear, the ankles aren't just crappy on mine, it's almost as if they were supposed to be weak on purpose. Something feels off about how this kit was designed. Bandai clearly tried to put a lot of good ideas into it, but the final fit and finish just doesn't feel polished. This kit just doesn't quite feel like a quality high grade from 2018. With the head attached, here's the completed Leo spinning around. It's not drowning in detail, but it still looks pretty good. Unfortunately, we start running into problems again as soon as we look at the Leo next to the real grade tall geese. Right away, we can see a massive size discrepancy. The RG tall geese is nearly 2 centimeters taller than the HG Leo, which is a scale difference of almost 3 meters, when the actual difference should be less than half that much. We also see some stark contrast in proportions. The tall geese has nearly cylindrical legs, while the Leo's legs taper dramatically towards the ankles. The Leo's feet are also much larger, and his elbows are positioned higher up, shortening the biceps and lengthening the forearms. The only part that's correct between the two is the torso, which is about the same size in both kits. I bring up these differences because if we look at the animation models for the tall geese and Leo from Gundam Wing, we see that they're supposed to have identical proportions. I understand that the tall geese needs to be a beefier kit as a real grade, but the high grade Leo doesn't even attempt to match the looks of its more premium counterpart. I bought the high grade Leo as a companion piece to my real grade tall geese, so I'm pretty disappointed that the aesthetic differences between the two are so jarring. They are definitely two very distinct interpretations of the same mechanical design. Things don't get better when we start handling the Leo either. The questionable joint designs I mentioned earlier don't help. The plastic on plastic joints, like the ones in the shoulders and hips, are super stiff, while everything else is ridiculously loose. Trying to pose this thing is a constant struggle to remember which places need a firm grip and which places need a delicate touch. And in terms of mobility, the feet can't bend more than 5 degrees without popping off, and the same goes for the waist. On the bright side, the knee bend is great, and the elbow bend is especially impressive, considering that it's only a single joint. The arm can also move up and down without budging the pauldron, which is pretty neat. The Leo can definitely pull off some cool poses, but getting there takes some patience. Some of the kit's dynamic potential is robbed by the head, which is completely fixed in place. Using the NPD parts alleviates this somewhat, as each of the 4 NPD heads can rotate freely, but I'm not sure if they actually add much to the kit. As I play with this more, I started noticing that none of the NPD heads really match the look of the rest of the kit. I think the tall cylindrical head probably looks the best out of the 4, but I keep finding myself swapping back on the original Leo parts because they just look more cohesive. Furthermore, this might be just a problem with mine, but my NPD parts look very gummy. All of the tick marks, for instance, are very faint and inconsistent. That said, I don't think the extra money spent on the NPD parts was a waste, because the additional pauldrons do look nice, and I personally prefer the purplish gray color to the olive drab of the original high-grade Leo. Your mileage may vary with the NPD parts, depending on your tastes, of course. It's very easy to build your own Ace custom from this kit, and if army building is your thing, the low price definitely helps with that. Despite all the problems with this kit, I can't say I hate it. In fact, I can't even say I don't recommend it, because it's still a very cheap, interesting little kit. You can easily put it together in a couple of hours and immediately start having fun switching parts on and off. In a way, this kit reminds me of the high-grade Flag and Enact from Gundam 00, which were also cheap, quirky kits in their own right. Just be aware that the high-grade Leo isn't perfect, even though it's been a long time coming. As long as you understand what this kit is and isn't, I don't think you'll be disappointed. That's all for this review. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.